If you've ever wished a single book could change how you think, this list is for you. Every once in a while, you find a book that doesn't just teach you something new, it changes the way you see the world. These 5 did that for me. They reshaped how I understand people, make decisions, and think clearly. 5 books that gave me an unfair mental advantage, ranked from highest to lowest Goodreads rating. Let's begin. The first book is The Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene. Most people believe they make decisions logically, but according to Greene, our actions are often driven by emotions, insecurities, ego, envy, fear, and countless subconscious forces. The problem? Most people don't recognize these forces, not in themselves and not in others. This book teaches you how to spot hidden motivations, understand behavior patterns, and navigate relationships more effectively. One lesson stayed with me. People reveal who they are through their actions, not their words. We spend too much time listening to what people say and too little time observing what they consistently do. Once you start paying attention to behavior instead of promises, you begin understanding people on a completely different level. Whether you're leading a team, building relationships, negotiating deals, or simply trying to avoid manipulation, this book is incredibly valuable. One practical takeaway this week: pay attention to people's actions instead of their promises. But understanding people isn't enough. What if the limits we assume about life, business, and progress are completely wrong? The next book tackles exactly that. The second book is The Beginning of Infinity by David Deutsch. This is one of the most mind-expanding books I've ever read. At its core, it argues something bold. Human progress has no known limit. Most people see problems and immediately assume there must be limits. Deutsch challenges that idea. He argues that every problem is solvable through the creation of better knowledge. Human civilization has advanced because people continuously generate explanations, challenge assumptions, and improve their understanding of reality. Here's one of the most powerful ideas in the book. Pessimism often comes from underestimating humanity's ability to solve problems. Throughout history, people predicted disaster after disaster, yet time and again new knowledge opened doors that once seemed impossible. This book encourages you to stop asking, "Can this be solved?" and start asking, "What knowledge are we missing?" That simple shift can completely transform how you approach challenges in your career, your business, and your life. One practical takeaway: next time you hit a wall, stop asking if it's possible. Ask, "What knowledge am I missing?" But here's the catch: better knowledge is useless if we can't tell what's actually true. What if your smartest, most confident beliefs are the very ones fooling you? The next book reveals why. The third book is The Scout Mindset by Julia Galef. This book explores why intelligent people often make poor judgments. According to Galef, most people approach ideas like soldiers. Their goal is to defend their existing beliefs. They fight for their opinions. They look for evidence that supports them and ignore evidence that challenges them. Scouts operate differently. A scout's goal is not to win an argument. A scout's goal is to understand reality as accurately as possible. One question from this book completely changed how I evaluate my own thinking. What evidence would change my mind? It's a simple question, but most people never ask it. If no evidence could change your position, then you're not searching for truth. You're protecting an identity. The Scout Mindset teaches intellectual honesty, curiosity, and humility. 3 qualities that are becoming increasingly rare today. One practical takeaway: before your next argument, ask yourself, what evidence would change my mind? But seeking truth raises a harder question. Where does truth actually come from? Mostly from what we read. And here's the uncomfortable part: almost everyone reads the wrong way. The next book fixes that. The fourth book is How to Read a Book by Mortimer Adler and Charles Van Doren. Despite being written decades ago, its lessons are more relevant now than ever. Most people think reading means moving their eyes across pages. This book argues otherwise. Real reading is an active process. The goal isn't to finish books. The goal is to understand ideas. The authors explain that there are different levels of reading, from basic reading to analytical reading and even syntopical reading where you compare ideas across multiple books. One lesson dramatically improved my learning. Don't ask, "What does this book say?" Ask, "Is this true, and why?" When you start questioning, evaluating, and engaging with ideas, reading becomes a conversation, not passive consumption. In a world filled with endless information, the ability to extract wisdom from books is a genuine superpower. One practical takeaway: with the next thing you read, don't ask what it says, ask, "Is this true, and why?" But here's the real problem. You can read carefully, think hard, and still get fooled, because your own brain is quietly working against you. The final book exposes exactly how. The final book is The Art of Thinking Clearly by Rolf Dobelli. This book is essentially a guide to the mental traps that shape our daily decisions. Dobelli explores dozens of cognitive biases that influence how we think, without us even realizing it: confirmation bias, survivorship bias, social proof, the sunk cost fallacy, and many more. One of the biggest lessons: our brains are not objective, truth-seeking machines. They're shortcut machines. And while those shortcuts can be useful, they can also lead us into costly mistakes. Understanding these biases helps you make better decisions in investing, in business, in relationships, and in everyday life. The more aware you become of your mental blind spots, the less power they have over you. And that's why this book earns the top spot on today's list. One practical takeaway: before your next big decision, name one bias that might be affecting your thinking. Those are 5 books that genuinely changed the way I think. If you've read any of them, let me know your favorite in the comments. And if there's a book that transformed your thinking, I'd love to hear about it. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to From Page to Purpose for more life-changing books and ideas. Until next time, happy reading.